Hello, everyone. It's very nice to have you all here. We're having such a big audience today, and we're really happy to have you all here. Today, we'll be talking about using ChatGPT as a UX and UI tool. And to do so, we have here Chus Margallo. He's going to introduce himself in a few minutes. But before that, I'm going to explain you how to use this console. So as you see on the upper left corner, you have the media player where you see myself speaking now and also Chus, who's going to speak shortly. And underneath that, you have a bit of bio box. There you can see more about Chus and where does he do, where does he work. Feel free to connect him on LinkedIn or on Instagram. You have the direct buttons there, so you just have to do it by one click. Underneath that, you'll see the Ask Your Question box. Feel free to use this box to ask any question you have regarding to the session. All these questions will be answered at the end of the session, but we are very excited for this Q&A today, so feel free to keep sending all the questions you have through this box. As you see on the center, you have the slides, and on the upper right corner, you have the related content. Here you have some content that Chus thought it could be interesting for you guys, so feel free to click and to take a peek on it. Also, you will find some more information from Ironhack. This way you can know a little bit about us. And underneath that, if you want to know more about Ironhack, you just have to click on the Apply Now button, so our team can contact you and explain you more about what do we do and who we are and which bootcamps do we have. And underneath that, you can see you have the chat. If the chat is not appearing to you, go to the toolbar underneath and click on the icon that appears like a bubble, and a chat will pop out. Feel free to use this chat to share all your thoughts, to let us know where you're connecting from. And I hope you enjoyed this session a lot. Well, Choose. Now I'll pass the mic on to you so you can present yourself. And I hope you all enjoy a lot this session.
Thanks a lot for the introduction, Julia. It's a pleasure to be here. Quite excited and a bit nervous. I'm not going to lie about it. But I hope this would be a fun session and we can all learn together a bit more about ChatGPT.
Of course.
Let's see. As Julia mentioned, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm a UX UI designer. I'm working in Nacar, a design studio in Barcelona, where I lead the UX UI team. I've been working as a UX UI designer for quite a long time. And I consider myself a very curious person. So I want to let you know, first of all, that I'm not an expert in AI. I'm more a person who likes a lot to learn about new technologies and see how they can be applied to my daily work. But as I said, I'm not a developer or I'm not a technologist. So you would see this is a session very focused on a pragmatic way to use ChatGPT. Not so much like a technology point of view, but more like, as the title said, as a UX and UI tool. For that reason, I created this index where I try to add all the most common phases that you would face when you are working as a UX UI designer. So I made it myself, like the introduction or preparation, but you would see why is that. And I want to give some examples, but I don't want to go too slow because I want to leave some time for questions. So if you are very curious about some specific parts I mentioned, just go to the Q&A box and write there the question and we can talk about it in the last part of the session. I think it would be more interesting than if I just give a long speech of all the phases of a design project. So as I said, this is the agenda I prepared. I already did the intro part, I think, because I was planning to explain, as I already said, I'm not an AI expert, but I'm more like a jack of all trades UX UI designer with a lot of interest in AI, but also in many other different things. So yeah, let's go. Yeah, just in case some of you are not fully aware of it, I would do a very short introduction about ChatGPT, but I promise it's going to be very short. I'm sure 99.9% of you know already what is it and you've used it, but just in case some person has been lost in, haven't checked internet in the last 4 months, ChatGPT is a company from the same guys who created DALI, which is AI for images, AI creator for images, which is wonderful, and it also took internet by storm. And ChatGPT, or the company OpenAI, was founded by Elon Musk and Sam Altana. Elon Musk is not there in the company anymore, by the way. Now we can say Microsoft would be one of the biggest names behind the company, and it released this model in September. It's been a lot of AI models for a long time. This company was released in 2015, I think, but the thing is, this one is open for the public. Everybody can use it. Google released a paper a few months ago. I think Meta did something also related with AI, but it's not open anymore. And the thing about ChatGPT is that anybody can use it, and everybody has been using it in many, many different and crazy ways. And probably that's the reason we are all talking about ChatGPT. I have to say, I'm just barely starting to use it in my daily job, and it's really, really powerful. And this is the GPT-3 model, but and they say the GPT-4 would be released very soon, and it's going to be few times more powerful than this one. So it's crazy. Sorry, I couldn't help myself, and I had to do this robot because in my mind, I'm from the 80s. It's basically like a small robot living in the computer and telling you funny things. I promised myself I wouldn't talk about Robocop in this session, but I don't think I'm going to do it. Okay, sorry for the pun. So, continue with the introduction about ChatGPT. How does it work? Okay, compared with Siri or with Alexa, Siri or Alexa just found an answer in internet and repeat it. What ChatGPT does, it's more like a prediction based on all the articles he's been fed of. So ChatGPT, as I said, OpenAI has been working for quite a few years already, and they fed this model with all the information they could get from Wikipedia and from internet. And ChatGPT creates a human-like conversation based on predictions he does with all the information he has been read in internet. That means it really sounds like a human, but it also means it can give some mistakes or some biased answers. So basically, don't follow any medical advice that GPT gives you, okay? And everything you find there, just check it out, just in case. As I said, it can be fit with wrong articles, or it can repeat wrong data. So it's not always correct, but it sounds correct. So take care of that. Yeah, here I just wrote down some few basic examples of what it can do, just for these 3 people who haven't used it yet in internet, I think. So you can ask for jokes. That's something I should probably do before I prepare this presentation. I'm realizing now, but it's a bit late for me. So ask for good jokes. You can do it. It can help also give you ideas of new topics for writing articles, or it can help you summarize long articles in one paragraph so you don't have to spend the time reading the article if you cannot do it. Or it can give you even code lines for websites. It can give you, for me, one of the most useful things is structures of everything. I'm a very unstructured person. So when I start to work in anything, I need to do an index. Otherwise, I'm going to do a abstract mess. So the fact that instead of creating the index from scratch, I can ask ChatGPT to give me an idea of this structure, it helps a lot. It's basically, I think, the biggest use I do of ChatGPT. This structure that it gives me, I modify it a lot and I play around with it. I delete faces, I add faces, but at least I have like a framework. For me, it's like a bootstrap. I don't know if you've used bootstrap. I guess many of you did. So it's like a bootstrap for humans instead of for websites. I think it's a very bad comparison, but maybe it works. So I want to start with some basics. So these are like, that's the reason of the burger, basic, I guess. Yeah, so as specific as you are, better answers is going to give you. It's like the same of DALI or other image-based AI models. If you write one very generic thing, the reply you would get is also very global, and it probably won't be what you want. So try to be as specific as possible, offer as much context as possible, include helpful information, give examples, and you can also give some parameters like I want 5 items, or give me 1 paragraph with this information, or I want a long article with 5 paragraphs, or I don't know. Consider that this is a conversation you are having, so you can ask for the result you want in advance, just talking about this. One very useful example is, for example, to tell the model to act as the person you are working with. Let's say, well, I would give the example, this specific example later, but you can ask the model to act like anyone, maybe as yourself, so you know what you should do when you don't have an idea. I like to think that ChatGPT helps in 2 big groups: things I don't have any idea about and things I know about. So basically everything. And the first group is to give me raw ideas of what to get into or where should I learn about this. And the second group, the things I know, it confirms I really know them, or it helped me to check some parts I was forgetting about. So the main takeaway basically of this intro I did is like engage into conversation with the model. Don't just do something like give me ideas for a birthday card. It's more like it's the birthday of my son, which is 5 years old, and he likes a lot of dinosaurs and astronauts. Can you act as me, as the dad, and tell me a few jokes to write in the card, something like that. I haven't tried this example, by the way. My son is way younger, so I didn't have the chance to write the card yet. So I don't know what is going to happen with that example. But as I was saying, it's just give as much context as possible, and when DALI write an answer, reply with ways to model that conversation. For example, if it sounds too casual, say, can you make it more formal? Or the opposite, if it sounds too formal, say, make it more casual, please. And if it's too casual, you can say, not so casual. And it would give something in between. So it's like a controller in some ways. You can say, use more words, use fewer words, things like that. And you can continue modeling it. And even the ideas, it gives you a list of ideas. You like one, you can say, can you explain this idea further? Yeah, okay, I like it. Can you combine this idea with, I don't know, Matrix background or the Lord of the Rings background? Or can you make it context into medieval era? Crazy things like that. And it connects these 2 different words and give you another idea. So for me, that would be the main thing to talk about in this session. Like, don't just use it as a Google. Use it to really engage in a conversation. Yeah, I already said the most important thing, so I could leave it here. But as I promised, I'm going to explain how I use it in all the different phases of the design project. So preparation. Supposedly, we don't really need to work in preparation because we receive perfect briefings and we work with enough people, so we just can focus on the design. But 99% of the times it's not the case. So I think it's very useful to get your own briefings when you don't get the proper one. Or you can get a commercial presentation if you're a freelancer and you need to convince a client to work with you. And you already maybe have a commercial presentation, but you need to make it a bit different for this specific client. It can help a lot with it. As I said, it can kickstart projects as well too, like as I was saying, a bit like a bootstrap kind of thing. Like, give me an example of a project plan for a mobile app of this type of business. Or you can also create like the different target files of project you are working on. For me, of these examples, I would say briefing is especially good, especially useful because I don't receive very long briefings a lot of the time, many times, but the fact is I know a lot about the client and a lot about the audience and a lot about the project. So if I put all those details together in the ChatGPT model and ask to write the briefing based on that, I can receive a pretty decent documentation. But consider also that if you are giving information to ChatGPT, you are feeding the monster, let's say, or feeding the Robocop thingy. So don't do that if the information you are going to write is sensitive. So consider how you are using the weapon. For analyze and research, it's also a great tool. Actually, I think it's one of the most, I've seen many people use it, and it's very, very strong because it can analyze so much data and give you a summarize of all that data. It can create personas for you based on the project you are working on, or it can give you even design critiques where you describe the design you are working on, and it can give you some inputs like maybe you are forgetting to add this block or this component, or you made this too long, or you can make it more concise, or try to add this section where you do an introduction about the product. It can give you also insights. I would show you some examples later on where you see, for example, I would show it later, but I like to do questions like which are pressing issues for this generation or this group of people. And it gives like a list of items to consider maybe for a side project that you just want to start a new side project, but you don't have any close idea. You just want to play around with designs. This is perfect for that because you can get some insightful things and not, I don't know. The thing is, if I do side projects without thinking too much, I would probably do all the side projects about the same things I like over and over. And this gives you like a completely different context to think about. Yeah, analyze and research is quite similar, but the thing is research. I have to say, I listened in a podcast a few days ago that we overuse the word research and we mean Google something. So this is more than Google something, but maybe it's not the best word to use what I do with ChatGPT, but I use it to learn new things, basically. I used to a lot of knowledge on things I never heard about or that I was never interested, but just because I can read a paragraph in 1 minute, it's like, okay, let's see what is about this CrossFit thing that everybody is practicing in my company. Why is so good? Why is not good? Which are people saying about this type of diet or I don't know, things I don't even care. it's funny. It can simplify also complex concepts. And if you are wondering if I asked ChatGPT, what is ChatGPT before doing this presentation, I can assure you, yes, I did. And I had to ask it to make it more simple even. As I promised at the beginning, this is a casual conversation and I'm not a technologist, so I try to get a simplified version of what is it. I rewrite it in my own way. I asked ChatGPT to check if the grammar was correct, and yeah, it helped me to create like a synopsis of the ideas I already had in my mind, but with not so many proper words, if you know what I mean. And Also, it can give you, as I was saying before, with the make it more casual and make it more formal, alternative approaches to the same thing. Maybe you have a rough text about something, but it's not going to connect with your audience because you wrote it in a very formal way, or even you don't know if the grammar is perfect. So first you check the grammar, or you ask to make it more funny or connected with a older audience or younger audience, or with people who's really interested into this type of thing or things like that, and it gives a twist on something that it's quite tricky for us to do it. Yeah, super useful. Brainstorming phase. You can do so many things in this part with ChatGPT. It can give you journeys, flow maps. It can give you trend ideas, layouts, color palettes, ideas list. It's great for that, especially when, as I was saying, you combine it with other completely different story. Yeah, for brainstorming, it really opens a lot what you can do, especially if you combine it with image AI model. And I don't think this does the work for you. Actually, it's just like the first step. It makes you think of new layouts or new colors, but then you have to do a lot of work still, but you can focus on to do the things that you are good at, but you have like this map of where to start. And as I said, it works for color palettes, for design system, for the layouts idea. To me, it's very funny because I used Midjourney before, and I think it's really interesting. I used DALI as well. Yeah, it's not so powerful as Midjourney, I think, but also very, very good. And it gives you layouts in a visual way, which makes more sense. But this is curious because it describes the layouts. So sometimes even draw it, but that's super weird. And it happened to me just only once, I think. I have it saved in the window to show it later. But the fact that you see different ways to structure content of the same thing in a written way, it's interesting, and it's sometimes more specific than to see a visual. It's funny. Okay, so I call this craft phase, but it's basically the design job when you really start to write all the elements and start to define all the little components or create the design system and everything. And I think in UX UI, it's one of the most hot topics because we all use Lorem Ipsum so much. And I think personally it's so wrong when you create the product design and you give to a client a Lorem Ipsum dashboard or a Lorem Ipsum mobile web app. The client cannot really get into the steps of the user. It's just reading some Latin words. And I always try to do for years already designs with realistic content, but it takes a long time and sometimes it's not so good. I'm not a copywriter, and yeah, I need help with it. And for that, it's perfect. It's super fast and it's really straightforward. I think all the posts I've seen in Instagram about UX UI tools, about ChatGPT as a UX UI tool, they talk about don't use Lorem Ipsum anymore. And yeah, if we can start with the Lorem Ipsum movement, for me, that's a big win already. But it's not only for that, of course. It can create a list of all the items a design system should keep. It can even explain how to use color design tokens, and it can even give you the values of these design tokens. Because if you work with design systems, you know how tricky it is to do the nomenclature, the naming conventions of the files. It's really, really painful. So you can describe the design system you are working on, and you can tell ChatGPT to create all those values based on that. And it gives you a list with hundreds of combinations that it would be quite painful to do by yourself. The color palettes, I think that's very funny as well. I really like when you are reading about visuals, and that's, I think, the funny thing about using ChatGPT as a design tool. to me, it reminded me to these 80s role games for computers, these first role games. I was, first of all, I am too young to play those. I saw it in my older cousin's computer, but it was just a bunch of text and it described a world and you had to read it and imagine it and then you reply with an answer. And this is what it does for design, basically. It's funny how the technology is getting a bit vintage when it gets more futuristic at the same time. I don't know, you know what I mean. But yeah, I think there are a lot of chances ChatGPT would be combined with a visual creator like DALI in the future. In that case, this vintage feeling is going to get lost. So let's make use of it now that we can. I like vintage stuff, if it wasn't clear. Yeah, let's continue with the phases. Otherwise, I'm going to lose all the time babbling about things I'm not really directly with it. The prototype phase, it's really crazy. It writes HTML and CSS for you, also JavaScript snippets. So I'm not a code writer, I'm not a programmer, but well, I know the basics of HTML and CSS, of course. You can just make all the steps of a website with ChatGPT. So before we ask for the layout, based on that, we did some wireframes, let's say. Based on those wireframes, we started to ask for copywriting, micro copywriting items to put in every component of the website. So based on that, we have, like, let's say, a high fidelity prototype. And based on that, we can already build the full website. We just can say to ChatGPT, please, can you code in HTML the website with this content? Or I even mentioned, and it's really important, that the ChatGPT has memory. So when you are in a conversation, all the things you said before into the same conversation are considered by the model. So if you were having this conversation about creating, I don't know, a website about sports or about music bands or wherever, you don't even have to rephrase all the thing and say, can you make a website about this and that? It already knows what you're talking about. So you just have to say, please give me the code of this website. And you can copy and paste it. And I haven't used it yet, but I heard it works really good with the JavaScript snippets. And even if it doesn't work, you can ask why it doesn't work and it helps you to fix them. I heard it works quite okay. But as I said, I haven't tried that part yet. What I tried, and it was quite useful as well, is to ask for user flows, complete experience, just to see if we are missing something. I also did the opposite, and I described a complete app we built and asked for feedback. And it gives you also some extra steps that maybe you are forgetting about. So also a very, very good tool to ask for design feedback. It's really, really interesting. Yeah, almost in the last step, which is validation and documentation. Validation, it's a bit similar what I was saying before. You can ask for feedback to the model. You can ask for best practices, and you can ask even to write a usability script. So you can tell, right, please give me a few questions to ask a user that I want to test if it can do this activity with this design. It's really, really amazing. I'm looking forward to see what you are doing with it, by the way, if you are already working with ChatGPT, because I think the most interesting part of this would be to all learn together what we can do with it. But I have to say, I'm very, very impressed. I'm not saying I'm not worried about it, because it's these super powerful things are always be scary, I guess. When there is a huge new technology thing, it always shake the market or shake our thoughts about what technology was about. And of course, it gives vertigo, but I also like what it does. I think it's very, very interesting. This adventure game I mentioned here is something you have to try if you haven't. It writes a role game for you, a role game of whatever you want. You can ask ChatGPT to create a story where you have to choose the user, have to choose an answer of each step of the game with the A, B, C, or D, for example. And you can say the story in context, like I want you to create a role game based in the Lord of the Rings, where I have to choose A, B, C, D option in each step. Then ChatGPT start to give you a long story, and every few steps you have to choose what to do with this A, B, C, D type of thing. It's basically these 80s role games I was talking about before, but this one is done custom for you based on whatever story you want, combined with other any era, previous era, or a movie you like, or maybe you start to ask about a super dark comic that you read a long time ago, and based on that story, you can ask to do a video game for it. This could be used, for example, to create immersive websites, which I think is something really, really cool. I want to practice this type of website that it's almost like a video game, but it's just a story with a lot of choose your own adventure type of questions that combined with illustrations. For example, you're an illustrator, you can focus on just doing beautiful art pieces and create an immersive story. And yeah, it's really, really, I'm feeling like I'm saying really way too many times, but it's part of the live game, I guess. Anyway, I will show you one example of this adventure game later. I also want to check, I have no time yet to do it, but I will do it as soon as possible, if this adventure game type of thing can be used for user flows. So instead of asking the model to make a video game, basically you feed the model with the web app and you ask him to give you the choices of the designs you have to do, so you can validate with yourself the design you did, or it can be done in the other way around. So the model checks the design you did for you. So yeah, also in the phase of validation, it can be quite powerful. And of course, in documentation, which is maybe one of the most obvious parts, but usually we are designers because we like to write. So when you have to do a big presentation about all these designs you've been working for a year, or when you have to do an article for your company LinkedIn profile, maybe it's a good way to start. As I said, at least with the instructor. Maybe if you are doing like a proposal or a roadmap, you can ask, okay, which are the recommended phases of a roadmap of a design project for this type of app or web. Also, you can combine, as I was saying before, two very different ideas and ask to receive an article about it or a paragraph or just a few words. And of course, you can ask for translations as well, which a lot of people is forgetting that you can ask directly in Spanish or in German or translate this concept to Spanish, whatever. So it's like, yeah, it's like Robocop, man. So don't forget to use it in documentation as well. Basically, I think it can be used in all the different phases of a design project, and depend which parts you really want to focus, you can let the other ones to ChatGPT, or at least ask some help when you don't know where to start. For me, that would be the main goal, to help you with the parts that it can get quite tricky to start with. As I said all the time, the index and the structures, sometimes when it's a new type of project, it's difficult to know where to start. We in Nacar, we work with very different type of projects because we are a company that started doing industrial design, and we are still very focused on industrial design products, and we work with kitchen appliance, we work with business to business dashboards, we work with professional printers, and many different things. It means that every project is completely different. I need to learn the basics of every industry before starting to work with it. Or the documentation is needed for every project, also kind of different, or the expected structure by client needs. So it helps a lot to create this index that then I fit with my own language. But once it's done, I can check if it's grammatically correct, or I can make it a bit more casual, etc. So yeah, these are the explanations, let's say. And yeah, I see I have some questions here. What other tools I use? What I think we should learn to be equipped for the changing market. Can you give me an example of how you use ChatGPT in a real project setting? Yeah, I'm going to start with the end. That's something I do a lot. I don't recommend, but it's how I roll. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you ChatGPT with some real questions I wrote down. Some are not from real cases, but they're basically the same thing I did with real cases. The thing is, I just rewritten down all of them because I didn't save them. So let me share the screen. It would be more clear after that. Okay, I think I'm showing it now, right? So I wrote down here the different phases, more or less. As I said at the beginning, I'm not super structured, so you can miss some of them, and I invented maybe some of them too. Sorry. Oh, yeah, of course. By the way, they already released a paid version because this one it doesn't work too much because it has so many users that it goes down a lot. But hopefully it would work for us. Okay, so this is an example I really like. This would be, for example, for a side project. This is like you want to do some funny design because you are bored of doing all the same stuff every day in your work, but you don't know what to do. List 5 issues that Gen Z is concerned about. For example, maybe because I'm a bit of a boomer, I ask this. You don't need to do this, but you can do it for boomers. And yeah, it does a few examples that are quite generic. You would notice the first answers are quite generic, but then is when you start to go into it is when things get more interesting. So here I said, okay, job security and career opportunities. Yeah, that's a topic. It could be interesting for a landing page, for example. Okay, can you write an article about it? Then it writes an article that basically you can reuse as the content for a website, or it can give you just ideas about how to start to think about this topic. For some reason, I asked for how can I learn digital marketing because I think the article mentioned that the digital marketing is a very, very good solution for the job security and career opportunities. Yeah, maybe it does. I'm not so sure, but I think it's interesting to check it at least, or compare with other opportunities. Maybe yeah, it's a big one. And I ask because you can use it also as a super strong Google version on drugs. So you can ask, where can I learn digital marketing? It gives you a list of places, very generic, but then you can tell, okay, online courses. Could you give me the best online courses for free? And then it gives you a more specific answers about that. Yeah, it's very, very interesting. This is another idea I use for, I don't know if you like NFTs, but since, as I said, I like to get into new things. Last year was NFTs. Now it's old, but I thought, okay, what I could do with NFTs if this was released 1 year before. And I asked for 10 ideas. And I said, okay, I like the second one, collection of anthropomorphic animals. Can you explain that on detail? And it gives a nice story background about that. And then I was like, okay, I like it. I would like to see it combined with Matrix. Can you do that? And it's a bit more original. And then it explains this story about how the humanity, well, you can read it here. Or you can ask again your own version of it, but you see how it goes really into a nice story. I'm going to show some other real cases. Okay, I mentioned before that sometimes it even draw the wireframe for you. This only happens once to me, and I save it here because usually when you ask for a wireframe, it describes the wireframe. In this case, it really drew the wireframe, which it's super weird. this is I don't think it's the best tool for this, but it's funny how it can do this. By the way, someone asked which other tools I use. If I really want to see wireframes or layout ideas, I think I would use Midjourney. I really like what Midjourney is doing. And DALI is also very, very good, but if you are not, if you don't have any issue going into Discord and using Midjourney through a chat, because they don't have their own website like DALI or ChatGPT, it's I highly recommend it. And also using some prompts like, I don't know, flat design for web of a wine shop using gray, black, and red, and it gives you a lot of different layout ideas based on those prompts, on those controls. And combine ChatGPT with Midjourney, you can do a lot of crazy stuff. I also have seen there are so many new tools. It's crazy, the explosion of AI tools that there is out there. But they're interesting, but I don't have any favorites. I still want to do more research on them. I saw one that it gives you random ideas for business, and if you like the idea, you just press publish web, and they do the full website mockup and HTML thing for you with the photo and the content. It was quite insane. And I have more examples here, like, okay, this one is interesting for a real case. I made a landing page for a specialty coffee brand with these elements. This was like the design critique, just to see if it told me I'm missing the footer or social networks or things like that. And it's very polite. It always says that you are doing great. It's better than some bosses, I guess. After that, it gives you extra ideas or some clarifications, maybe like, yeah, huge use high quality imagery. Quite obvious, but thanks. But don't forget the call to action. Oh, sorry, I moved it. I don't know which was this one. Anyway, I think the example is quite clear. This is something I mentioned before also, like if you say the role you want to behave is going to give you more specific answers quicker. So you can say, act as a senior designer. I think I have it somewhere here. But yeah, this was an example of a user flow for an app. I asked to make a user flow. Create the text scenario, the test script. This is an example of the code version. As you can see, it's quite complete. Yeah, I haven't used Framer yet, but I really want to do it as soon as possible. I think it's going to be, it's a very interesting tool at least. I don't know if it's going to win Figma battle, but at least I want to use it. And I thought, okay, maybe before stepping to use it, I just can ask for some help. And yeah, it does. It kind of gives you a basic script of what you have to do, and you can go deeper into those questions. I'm going to stop sharing just to see if I'm missing some important questions out there. Yeah, I see Julia mentioned there are more questions. So if you want to write any question that you think is especially interesting, feel free to do it. Yeah, as I said, I basically use Midjourney, but I think that is very interesting, and I think you can use webs like Product Hunt to see the last AI tools, and you would see there are thousands of options. But basically, with DALI, Midjourney, and ChatGPT, I found I can do so many things. I didn't have so much time to find for new ones. Well, the flowchart, yeah, I always try to do a basic map. I draw. I draw a lot, and I try to do my own sitemap. But sometimes you can use ChatGPT to check if you are missing some basic steps. But as I said, I call it index before, but you can call it flowchart. It's like the steps you need to do with every project. And even if it's not a design project, sometimes it helps to do it. So I recommend it. Yeah, it does. So as I said, don't write sensitive information on ChatGPT if you don't want it to be shared outside. And I would say be quite yeah, take care of that. Don't overshare with the matrix. Sorry, I had to do another sci-fi joke. I don't have any structure for ChatGPT. I do for Midjourney, but since this is not the topic, I will leave it for next webinars. But the funny thing about ChatGPT is because it's conversational and it changes a lot with the things it learns from previous questions, you can really model it. So you can start with super silly generic questions and then you can go more into it. So if I would say one special structure, I would say give the context of the person you want to respond as. So if you wanted to think for you, let's say act as a UX UI senior designer focused on creating websites on with experience in copywriting, for example. Or if you wanted to create a briefing for you, write something like act like the project manager of a company who produce wherever your client is doing and write a briefing about this and that. So yeah, I recommend to use kind of a context special structure at the beginning. So act as job title or job description, something like that, comma, and then you write the question after that. Well, I honestly haven't compared both. Um, I'm not sure, being honest. I think it's just quicker because you can, it's like Grammarly combined with many other tools at the same time. But I guess Grammarly has special features that maybe ChatGPT cannot use so accurate, but I cannot say for now. But the thing is that I don't, I haven't used Grammarly too much. I only use it to correct basic grammar mistakes. But I'm not sure if it can change the tone of voice of a text. Maybe it does. In that case, yeah, maybe it works similar. Some of the things of ChatGPT actually you can find it very similar in other tools. It's like I noticed. I think, for example, WhatsApp is using AI to correct some words. It corrects a word, but it does it in the wrong way. And when it sees the next word you wrote down, it changes it again based on that. I'm pretty sure that's AI as well. So what I mean is that you would notice a lot of products are using AI right now. ChatGPT is just the popular one, the new boy in the high school or something like that. I should start with you. Yes, as I said, well, I have a specific example here. I'm working for a new project. There is a dashboard for a factoring project. So I have no idea about this type of clients, and I asked ChatGPT for examples of other competitors. I started asking if it knows about this company and my client. Then, when it gives context, I ask, "Okay, can you give me a list of the 5 competitors or 5 biggest competitors it has?" Then it gives me a list of that. Can you explain me the technology they use or the difference between this company and the other company? And it helps a lot to give context for the kickstart of the project. So when you go to a meeting with the client, you already have a lot of answers about what the company is doing. And that helps a lot, especially when you need to prepare, for example, a design plan. And before, sometimes even you get the project started, but you don't know all the details of the product because it's very complex or it's a new type of industry. You haven't worked yet with it. It's perfect for that, and I use it a lot for, like, to get deeper knowledge or something I don't know anything about. I saw before the example of the specialty coffee website, for example. Maybe you are not a coffee person. Okay, I would recommend you to start asking ChatGPT why coffee specialty is so popular, which things I should consider when creating a website for a specialty coffee company based here with these values. and this type of things. I use it every day. But actually, all the phases I explained here are all phases I've used ChatGPT in one way or another. Sometimes just in a very subtle way, but yeah, it can help in all of them, and I've used them every day for the last month or something. Yeah, this is quite tricky, and it's not super quick. But you have to explain in ChatGPT what you build or what you designed with as many words as possible, and then you can explain the goal you want to achieve with it. And based on that, it gives you an answer. Yeah, I don't think we have time to show that because it can take a while. But maybe I have validation somewhere here. I try to give a very crazy color palette to see if it says it's not good. And what it did is it told me like, yeah, you can use this color palette with 5 different crazy colors, but what you should do is consider to use a white background so they don't compete with each other. This was an example of design critical, so I found quite useful. Preparation. Now this was a personas. Yeah, for example, in this case, it's not exactly that, but it's quite similar. I want to know the phases to create a prototype. It tells you all the different phases, but you can do the same of a product you've already done. Like, I want to check if the phases I add in this design are correct. And you write all the phases and you try to explain them with many words as possible. It gives you this feedback about it. I thought I was sorry, but I wasn't sorry about that. So I want to know the phases to create a web prototype. Okay, but let's say you have the phases already written down. I want to know the funnel of a sneakers website. So this is from scratch, but instead of saying I want to know the funnel, you can describe the funnel you did and ask if it's good. Okay, as I said, this is very generic because it always starts with a very generic question, so you can tell once it's done. You can say, can you give me a specific example of the step 1? It always helps to have, at least to me, it's very useful to have like a real case. You see? It will exactly tell you one way to do it, but you can say, please give me an alternative. Replying to your question, which I haven't done properly, I think, is like, try to do this, but instead of asking, build a funnel for me, describe that funnel to the model and ask what do you think about it? Is it correct, or what missing connection? What I'm missing here? And it can tell you, oh, you forgot to add the 404 page, or you forgot to connect the card at the end with the payment, or things like that. I'm going to be honest, I haven't tried Microsoft AI chatbot yet. Although I use different models for images. For written prompts, I only use ChatGPT. And I heard in a podcast a very interesting thought about it. And they say the reason it's so popular is that they build a good product. It's very simple. It's just a website where you write down things, but it's the same than DALI. If you use DALI or you use ChatGPT, you just have to go to openai.com. But if you want to use Midjourney, you need to go to Discord and learn to use it, which is very easy. But for some people, just to download Discord and learn how to use it, that's way too much. And that's the reason I probably got into ChatGPT myself, because it was so easy. So I'm not saying it's the best AI tool, and I'm very curious what is going to happen. I have no clue. Well, actually, I'm going to say the same that I said before. I have no idea what's a perfect prompt look like, but I know how you can model it till you get what you want, and that's what I like about this conversational model. The example I just showed you, I wanted to have a specific funnel case, and it gave me a very generic one. So I told the tool, can you give me a specific example? And then it got the answer I wanted. So for me, a very good prompt is the one that gives as much context as possible at the beginning, and then it gives you the ask you want to receive an answer about. But it doesn't matter if you don't do it at the first time, because that's what I meant with this main takeaway I mentioned before. Like, go deeper into the conversation and engage with the Robocop thingy and ask more stuff and tell him, oh, I didn't like this. Can you make it a bit more formal? Or please use less words. Or you can even go to previous answers and read down or edit the answer you wrote, so it sends the answer it gives you back. So basically, there is no well, maybe this is a perfect prompt, but just roll with it. Which ChatGPT app do you recommend? There are so many to choose from. You need to subscribe for each one, so you can. Well, yeah, that's the reason I haven't really used any ChatGPT tool, or I guess you mean tools based on ChatGPT, which you can find in Futurepedia, I think. For me, at this point, I don't know what would happen in the future. Maybe Figma start to build plugins with AI, and you can just Google. You can ask ChatGPT for the best free Figma plugins with AI tools or something like that. But right now, I think I just like to use ChatGPT, Midjourney, and Figma, and I combine all of those things. So I don't use a tool that makes a website from scratch in one step. Maybe we will do that in the future, and I think it's very, very important to know all those tools. But I avoid the FOMO, let's say. Just wait till there is something big out there, and when there is something big out there, if you are checking LinkedIn, or if you're checking with your colleagues what they are seeing, you would notice when something is really big and it's really moving the trend. So don't try to follow all of them. Yeah, sure. Someone is asking in Spanish if this tool is going to make us more lazy or more creative. I guess depends how you face it. I think if you want to be lazy, you can be as lazy as you want, but everybody is going to notice, at least at first. I heard ChatGPT is already OpenAI is already building a tool that it would check if your text has been done with ChatGPT. So if you just copy and paste, people is going to notice sooner or later. I think if you use it in a good way, it can give you way more creative, because, as I said, you focus on what you really, really like and what you are good at. And it's like a Kickstarter of the other parts you need to work on, but maybe you are not so good at it. So it takes you longer than you wish. So it depends how you face it. It can make you way more creative, or it can make you just a copy and paste guy, which won't, yeah, I don't think that would give any value at the end. So don't use it just copy and pasting. That won't add too much value to anyone, I think. Yes, it's free. Just go to OpenAI or chat.openai.com and log in with Google or something, and you can use it for free. You don't need to use the paid version. I haven't used it. You don't need to download it. It's just on the browser. So someone was asking me, you need to download it. No worries about that. Maybe there is an app. I'm pretty sure someone already built an app you can download to your phone, if that's what you were asking. But also I use it on the browser in my phone, and it works quite good. Oh, what I meant is that I still use Figma in the old school way, but I like to design and move my pixels around. but I use ChatGPT to get all this content or all these ideas of things I want to build in Figma, instead of using a new tool that builds the website from scratch with AI. That's what I meant. I hope now it's clear. So I'm still a bit old school. I'm not saying let's use AI for everything. I really like to design my interfaces. I like to have some help from OpenAI, but I like to design the website by myself. Not so old school to design it with Photoshop. I'm a Figma guy, and that's what I say, Figma. Okay, I hope you like
Well,
the webinar.
Well, Chus, I'm happy to be back. We are about the hour. We had lots of questions in this session. Thank you very much for your time and for this really cool session and really eye opening. We had some questions that we did not have time to answer, but don't worry because we you can send them to me at julia.collell@ironhack.com and we can manage to answer them later. Also, I want to give a big thanks to Chus for this great presentation. And remember to everyone that this session will be recorded and it will be sent to everyone who was registered on this event, regardless if they could finish the whole session or not. So this way you can check it as many times as you want.
It was really, really cool. Thanks for the questions and thanks for everything.
Thank you. It was very interactive, and we hope we can do another session soon.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.